Hello, grade 5 teachers, and welcome to your February overview video. My name is Samantha Davidson, and I am your elementary social studies consultant. And I'm just here on a quick video to go over some of the included resources and highlights within the February pacing guide. And as always, please feel free to reach out to me via Teams or via email. I can come out support you in your classroom. All of these resources are found on the SharePoint page as well, so please make sure that you're taking some time to check out the Social Studies Grade 5 SharePoint page. All right, so let's get into the month of February. So we're continuing on our historic thinking journey and our creative and critical thinking journey with our students. So the skills that we're focusing on this month is, again, skills of critical thinking, creative thinking, skills of historical thinking, and developing skills of geographic thinking. And also, like always, we want to demonstrate skills of oral, written, and visual literacy. So those are the skills we're developing. And the case studies or the historic events that we're going to be diving into this month are looking at examining critically how the Northwest Mounted Police shaped ways of life in Canada, and looking at what do the stories of the Northwest Mounted Police tell us about settlement and development of Western and Northern Canada, and how have the stories of the Northwest Mounted Police shaped identity in Western and Northern Canada. Bearing in mind that in grade 4 they did have an introduction to the Northwest Mounted Police, specifically looking for Alberta. So if you are in a 4-5 combined right now, it fits perfectly actually together right now for February. So we're studying the Northwest Mounted Police. So when we look at the pacing guide for the Northwest Mounted Police, we're going to look down into, again, our instructional strategies, reading comprehension. We want to get our students looking at using, because we're looking at historical thinking and historical events. So we really want our students to use context clues to understand history. So using the images, using primary sources, using secondary sources, interviews, all of those different materials to really help to understand, because we can't teach all the vocabulary for historical understanding. So sometimes our students are going to need to use the author's messages and words around certain words in order to understand them, but we might also have to take some time to grab some images and to create some visual supports for our students, and they might need to create that as well to demonstrate their understanding. So we want to make sure that if we're using context clues, we have different sources for them to use. And particularly this month, we have the Kayak Magazine Safety Seeking when it's looking at settlement in Canada. The other thing when it comes to our outcomes this month is we are examining critically. And what does that look like for grade 5 students? What does examining critically look like? So again, that is going to be source analysis. So encouraging students to analyze various sources such as letters, diaries, maps, photographs, and teaching them to evaluate these sources for biases, for reliability, credibility, who's writing them, who's saying that. And so in order to really do that, part of our curriculum is when we're going to introduce our visible thinking routines. So our visible thinking routines are found under instructional strategies. And so for this month, we have What Can Be, which is an amazing visible thinking routine to help students understand perspective and historical thinking. Here Now, There, Then is another great resource that you can use for when looking at those historical contexts. So when we're examining critically and looking at source analysis, we want to look at cause and effect. We want to look at multiple perspectives, critical analysis of the change and the results, compare and contrast. We want to make sure that our students are providing evidence-based reasoning for their statements and for their arguments. So we want to make sure we're including that. Examining critically also includes reflective thinking. So encouraging our students to reflect on their own personal perspectives, and then maybe after the session or after a lesson or after looking at that historical event, challenging them to think critically about their own biases and their limitations based on their experiences within life and things like that. So we want to make sure that we're really looking at what does examine critically mean, and we're including opportunities for that within all of these particular outcomes, as well as developing those skills. So again, we have those visible thinking routines, and they're all here that I suggest for this outcome. Again, choose one or two. Try to use it in multiple contexts. So try to use it in your science block, try to use it in math, try to use it in language arts, as well as with social studies. Your students are really going to develop those critical thinking skills and that critically skill within using these outcomes. For our comprehension strategies, of course, we want our students to continue making connections as often as possible. So when they look at an event such as the Northwest Mounted Police, perhaps they're looking at Cypress Hill, or perhaps they're looking at the development of movement within human migration and things like that. Making those personal connections are going to help our students really to understand and retain. Again, continuing to make text to world connections. So how can they connect this historical understanding to the movement of people in happening today, perhaps due to war or different reasons, push and pull factors today. So again, giving those text to world connections and using context clues is going to be very, very important when it comes to our historical understanding. So there's going to be so much vocabulary that for our students that we can't possibly teach all of these historic terms or historic events or historic ideals. So it's important that we teach our students to use the author's message to help them understand what is being said, whether that be in a primary or secondary source. So we want to make sure that we're allowing our students that opportunity for vocabulary and things like that. Again, with historical thinking, we want to provide them with as much visual kind of support as possible. So there are a ton of activities that include going on virtual field trips. On This Spot with the Northwest Mounted Police is a great website that you can go on, and then there's activities of Fort Macleod and the different forts that you can actually show the change, the historic change over time. A one-pager assignment is a great one for the Northwest Mounted Police. We've got the Seeking Safety Kayak magazine, which is a great one for when we look at the outcome of examining critically the ways of life immigrants from the British Isles during the Great Migration. It's a great resource for that. So again, when we're using this kayak magazines, if you click on the link here, it will take you to the educational package. So there's lessons, there's ideas that you could do here. Lesson plans are down below. And then if you click the download PDF, you're going to have access to the magazine itself. And again, there are a tremendous amount of resources in here. You could do chat stations. You can have jigsaw work happening with students. You can have, again, any of the cooperative learning strategies, the Kagan strategies, those bring those back with the kayak magazines. But also you can have guided reading sessions in your language arts where you're looking at context clues. What are the images, or what are the, the other supports providing here when reading some of these? So I love that for this particular magazine. And then as you continue to go down, there's usually a fiction feature. So this one's Place of Harmony, and it talks about 1903 and British Columbia, so you can go through there. And then, of course, there's also the Voyage to Freedom. So there's usually like a graphic novel at the end of these. So these resources, the kayak magazines, are great. They're also available on the SharePoint page if you're just looking for that one as well. But clicking on the links in here is going to help with that as well. All right, so we're going to head back to the pacing guide here. So we have some push and pull factor slides that are available and ready to go for you with student tasks included. We have an analysis for Canadian migration using that Seeking Safety Kayak magazine. For our cooperative learning strategies, we might be looking at chat stations this month, inside-outside circles. You might want to look at introducing a Socratic seminar if your class discussions are quiet. We want to again spend time with our skills of developing that oral language with how can we use class discussions. Socratic seminars are great. And of course, if you are looking to have a little bit more information on any of these particular skills, you want them modeled in your classroom, I'm happy to come out, work with your students to show you how these things can really be supported in your classroom. We've got the social studies paragraph response frameworks under the writing assignments, written response questions, writing text structure, historical account text structure for our students in grade 5, and of course, current events and current events claim support questions. So when we're looking at the outcomes of historical events, it's often, well, we can't really do current events when we're looking at history, when in fact, actually, we can use current events to help us to understand history. So especially with the movement, the influx of newcomers into Alberta and into Canada right now is a great resource to look into to help students understand the time period of the Great Migration and what was pushing and pulling people to Canada at that time. So again, for assessment, we want chat stations. We want to be assessing what our students are discussing, how they're interacting with each other. We can assess during classroom discussions, small group table talk, inside outside circles, Socratic seminars. So again, we want our students talking. We want our students to be talking more than we are as the teacher talking, and the more opportunity they have to process orally with each other and to think through some of these concepts will really help to dive into those deeper understandings. So again, if you need any assistance with that in your classroom, please let me know. And then going down here, we've got some amazing field trips. We've got some great resources. The RCMP Heritage site will do a virtual field trip as well. So you can organize that through them. Lots of interesting stories happening through Peer 21 and lots of different things like that. Again, we have timelines in the Canadian Encyclopedia. We have Irish Canadians, Scottish Canadians, all of our particular British Isles, and during the Great Migration here. The Quebec immigration policy is a great resource to look into for a particular case study. If you wanted to look at tug of war, if you wanted to have a debate in class, that's a great one for there. We've got the kayak magazines available for you. Seeking Safety, Coming to Canada is available in French as well. And there are some videos here to support you as well. So I hope you enjoy your historical thinking in the month of February. Again, if you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out via email, via Teams, and check out the Social Studies SharePoint page if you need any other assistance. Thanks so much.